Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Captain Atom issue 12. This is from volume 1, of course. Now this issue is very important to the series as a whole and a lot of the comic books that came later. This introduces Captain Atom's nemesis, his equal but opposite. They have the same powers, but they are definitely not the same personalities. And I am, of course, talking about Major Force. Now Major Force would later go on to murder Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern's girlfriend, and chop her up and put her in the fridge. That was a very important moment in the Green Lantern story arc in the 90s. We're going to look at this and see what we got here. Well, it opens with Lieutenant Allard and Dr. Megala observing the reappearance of Major Force. And they activate Delta 9 gas, which has been refined. Because it worked on Captain Atom, they refined it a little bit, and it puts down Major Force. And they drag him up out of the ground, put him on a transport, and take him away. Now, we get a little bit of background here, where something in Allard's past happened, and it doesn't tell us right away what it is. And then we juxtapose that with the experience of Nathaniel Atom with his son Randy, playing hide and seek. And both incidents involve being in a dark place. Now, whereas Captain Atom's was fun and cheeky and cute and, father-son bonding, Allard's was extremely dark and terrifying. Speaking of Captain Atom, he's up in the Arctic, enjoying a little snowy weather, as it were. Why is he up there? Well, that's where his son Randy is, and it's also where General Ealing is at. What are they doing up there? They're recovering a probe. And that probe is of some alien origin. We don't really know much about it. They don't really go into it. But they're not the only ones that picked up the probe and discovered its presence. The Soviets did as well. So there's some Soviet tanks coming in, and Captain Atom is not okay with that since his kid is out in the field with Ealing. So he goes into superhero mode and runs out into the cold, switches into his Captain Atom persona, and proceeds to melt the ice under the Russian tanks, making them fall in. But they summon some jets and they take a shot, and that really makes him mad because you don't shoot at Captain Atom's kid. So he blows up those missiles and then takes out the jet. And that's when we learn a little bit more about the true past of the guy that will become Major Force. Now, interestingly, the Major Force project happened about a year after the Captain Atom project. It was the same type of experiment with slightly better equipment so they could get more observations, stuff like that. That's how they knew that Major Force was going to show up too, because the same seeming failure occurred as it did with Captain M, so they thought they were two screwed up projects. But that's not necessarily the case, as they discovered when Captain Atom reappeared, that meant the Major Force was probably going to appear as well. So we learned that they're making implants on his still molten skin before it solidifies, just as Captain Atom's did. So they plant explosives and monitoring devices. So there's little cameras, and they put gas in his eyebrows or forehead area, and they put a little bomb under his neck and where his Adam's apple is. So if he tries anything stupid, they can blow his head off, and they have complete control over Major Force then. Or so they think. So then we learn a little bit more about what Allard actually saw that night and who this person really was. And it is not good, because this person was a complete monster, quite honestly. He was also court-martialed. His name is Clifford Zmeck, Z-M-E-C-K, and he raped and murdered Allard's mother, and he was convicted to life imprisonment. He's not a good person, but he was the only other candidate that qualified for the project other than Nathaniel Atom. So he is in every respect the opposite, whereas Atom was a good man who was framed for a crime he didn't commit. This guy did it, and there's no doubt he did it, and he is a complete scumbag. But that leads in to the next issue of Captain Atom, which would be Annual 1. So we're going to look at Annual 1 before issue 13, because that Annual 1 picks up right where this one leaves off, and issue 13 is a different arc. And we're going to see a lot of Major Force in the future. I don't know if he's still around or not. I'm sure they'll bring him back if he's not. But Captain Atom and Major Force were very similar characters. Their power is very kind of intertwined, and they're a good match against each other. So Major Force fighting Green Lantern in the 90s was a big deal. Seeing his first appearance here, if they do bring him back, this might be an issue worth tracking down, because this is technically his first appearance. Although he's never in superhero mode, he's just in Molten Lava Man form. Annual 1 is technically his first super appearance, but not his first appearance, because he is in here as a character when they're doing the flashbacks, and as the molten version where he's getting rid of the outer excess and cooling off. So yeah, very interesting story. This was a great issue. It built up a lot more in the, the story they're trying to put together. I can't talk right now. And I think this was a really good issue. It's definitely a big rebound from last issue, which was obviously just wedged in there. This was not. This was continuing to build on the mythology of the series, and it sets up a major opponent for Captain Atom. So yeah, I highly recommend this issue. If for nothing else, then this is a good jumping on point. You won't get as much about Captain Atom's background, but you get enough of Major Force's origin to kind of extrapolate what happened with Captain Atom. And it's the same creative team. This is Bates, Wiseman, and Broderick and Smith. So that'll do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel, and we hope to see you on the next episode.